News Bulletin, Outlook. Good day to all our viewers tuning in to the weather news forecast. We are delighted to have you back in this familiar time slot. In today's program, our focus will be on the tropical developments across the Atlantic Ocean, a region that always draws the most attention throughout the annual hurricane season. Together, we will analyze whether the coming days will bring a surge in activity or if the tropics will continue to remain subdued under the dominance of dry air masses and upper-level wind shear. These two factors have repeatedly prevented storms from strengthening, even though tropical waves continue to roll off the African continent one after another on satellite imagery. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin today's broadcast, we invite you to look at satellite images of upper and mid-level water vapor. As you can see on the screen, those prominent orange and brown shades stretching from the central Atlantic all the way to the Caribbean mark the regions of dry air. In simpler terms, air masses low in moisture but rich in Saharan dust. This invisible shield has proven extremely effective at weakening tropical waves. Even when these systems initially develop favorably, once they encounter this dry layer, convection is suppressed, thunderstorms collapse, and circulation centers struggle to hold together. Compounding this obstacle is the strong west to southwest shear at upper levels, which often slices through these systems, tearing apart their vertical structure. That explains why, despite the frequent appearance of tropical waves in recent days, none have been able to intensify into a named storm. At the center of attention right now is a new tropical wave that has just emerged from the coast of West Africa. At the outset, it benefits somewhat from warmer than average sea surface temperatures around the Cabo Verde Islands, creating a short-lived window for development. However, just ahead lies that wall of dryness and a corridor of strong shear, presenting major hurdles. Preliminary forecasts suggest the system will track along the edge of the subtropical high, meaning it is likely to bend northward into the open Atlantic. Meteorologists often refer to this as a fish storm, one that remains over open water with little chance of striking land. Still, viewers should note that even if it does not strengthen into a storm, it could bring scattered showers and thunderstorms as it approaches the Lesser Antilles around the second half of September. Another scenario is also on the table. If the system cannot sustain itself in the tropics, it may transition into an extratropical low farther northeast, merging with a cold front. Such transitions often occur later in September, when autumn weather systems begin to spill out of North America into the northwestern Atlantic. In that case, the Azores or even parts of Western Europe would need to keep watch, as extratropical lows frequently bring strong winds and prolonged rainfall. Meanwhile, in the Caribbean, the weather picture is becoming wetter. Over the next 5 to 8 days, multiple tropical waves are expected to sweep across the Greater Antilles and Central America's coastlines. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, northern Honduras, Belize, and eastern Yucatan all fall within the zones likely to experience widespread thunderstorms. Some numerical models had once suggested a more dramatic possibility, that a tropical cyclone could form in the western Caribbean or eastern Gulf of Mexico between September 16 and 19. However, a closer look shows that the probability of a named storm remains low. Aside from the mid-level dry air, upper-level shear is still strong in this area, disrupting storm structures. The more reliable scenario is heavy rainfall, localized flooding, and landslides along mountainous slopes, rather than a strong tropical storm in the short term. Residents in Central America, particularly along the coasts of Honduras and Belize, as well as in island territories such as Jamaica and Cayman, should pay close attention to hydrological risks. Intense downpours over short periods can easily cause landslides and flash flooding. Aquaculture, offshore fishing, and cruise tourism industries should monitor daily forecasts to plan safe operations. Shifting focus northeast to the Lesser Antilles, during the latter half of September, this gateway region of the Atlantic is expected to see at least 1 or 2 tropical waves, because all waves must pass through here before reaching the deeper Caribbean. The islands frequently face bursts of rain, thunderstorms, and gusty winds. Forecasts this time are no different. Rainfall is expected to increase, particularly in the northern islands extending toward Puerto Rico and Hispaniola between September 19 and 24. The degree of impact will depend largely on whether the waves can maintain their convection while battling dry air pockets and shear. If convection persists, rainfall will be more intense. If disrupted, impacts will lessen considerably. Farther west in the Atlantic, just off the southeastern U.S. coast, a weak trough lingers offshore of Florida and the Carolinas. Some models hint that a coastal low may spin up in the coming days. However, a strong high to the north is suppressing this area, making it difficult for any low to quickly move inland. This points to a scenario of gradually strengthening northeasterly winds, rough seas, and scattered coastal showers, particularly along the Outer Banks, northern Florida, and the South and North Carolina coastlines. For residents along the U.S. East Coast, there is little reason to worry about a major hurricane threat at this point. But caution is advised regarding secondary impacts. Persistent onshore winds can cause large waves, coastal flooding, and beach erosion. Scattered showers may also affect travel and tourism through the weekend and into next week. Looking farther toward late September, special attention should be given to intraseasonal oscillations such as the MJO and NOW. The MJO is shifting into a phase more favorable for convection, while the NOW is trending slightly negative to neutral. This combination often coincides with a more unsettled environment across the northwest Atlantic. In practical terms, this suggests we may see an increase in coastal lows or extratropical systems by the end of the month. By contrast, the classic Cape Verde season, the period when African waves most easily develop, is gradually winding down. Hence, the late season focus is likely to shift westward, the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and northwest Atlantic near the U.S. coast. To summarize, there are three key hotspots ahead. First, the wave off West Africa. It has a narrow short-term window for growth but faces daunting dry air and shear. It is most likely to recurve harmlessly into the open Atlantic. Second, the western Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico. Rising moisture will bring heavy rains between September 16 and 24. But the odds of a named storm in the short term are still uncertain. The primary risk is flash flooding and landslides. Third, the U.S. southeast coast. A weak trough offshore could spin up a modest coastal low, bringing strong northeasterly winds, rough surf, and scattered coastal rains. Later in the month, we should also watch for frontal systems bringing widespread rains across the central and northern Atlantic as well as the northeastern U.S. For safety, seafarers and island tourists should regularly check tide tables and wind conditions, avoiding offshore trips during sudden squall events. Caribbean and Central American fisheries should plan vessel docking based on 3 to 5 day rainfall forecasts to minimize storm risk. U.S. coastal residents, particularly along the Outer Banks, northern Florida, and the Carolinas, should prepare for choppy seas, coastal flooding from persistent northeasterly winds, and scattered showers in the coming week. In closing, we encourage viewer interaction. Where are you currently watching from? The Caribbean, Florida, or the Lesser Antilles? Please share your comments below, along with questions or local weather updates. We will compile these and bring localized coverage in future editions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications so you never miss the latest updates. Before signing off, we emphasize that this analysis is based on satellite data and numerical model guidance, intended as orientation. Weather can change quickly when real-time conditions evolve. Therefore, viewers should always consult official forecasts from local meteorological agencies for the most reliable information. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's weather news forecast. The Atlantic may be on the verge of stirring, but the dominance of dry air and upper-level wind shear remains a decisive factor in whether tropical systems will strengthen. We will continue to follow developments closely and provide updates as conditions change. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next broadcast.